Welcome to the GCLS Book Club. Today we have some guests from the Erotica Anthology, Silk and Leather Lesbian Erotica with an Edge. We have with us the editor, Victoria Villasenor, and 5 of the authors, Robyn Nyx, Megan or M. Ulrich, L.L. Shleton, Kitty McIntosh, and Carol Hutchinson. Before we get into talking to them and having them do their reading, which we're all looking forward to, and peppering them with awkward questions, we will do a quick show of our sponsor. The Lesbian Review, also known as TLR, is a website focused on reviewing lesbian fiction, lesbian movies, and lesbian music. In their words, we review only what we enjoy. That way we promote the best products and help lesbian and queer women find their next read, listen, or watch. Primarily focused on books, as of January of 2021, the TLR has reviewed just over 1,500 lesbian novels. You can find them at thelesbianreview.com, where there are links to their social media and a place to sign up for their awesome newsletter. Following TLR is an easy way to boost your reading list with only the most brilliant lesbian books. So please give them a look and find your next read. With us today, we have the editor of the anthology. Victoria Villasenor has been an editor for nearly 2 decades. She writes speculative fiction and loves working with aspiring authors to create worlds readers can escape to. Would you like to tell us a little bit about the anthology before we get to the author readings?
Sure. So Silk and Leather was a kind of a passion anthology for me, and I was really lucky to be asked to be the editor for this by the bosses at Bold Strokes. And I love the idea of kind of the edgier sides maybe of erotica, and that the ideas of Silk and Leather encompass so much within kind of the sexual paradigm. So it was really exciting to see the various stories come in, and when putting it together, I tried to get a really wide variety of stories so that there was a little bit of something for everybody. And every story in it is just, I love them.
Yeah, they're all unique. I had a great time reading it, aside from the erotica part, of course, but it was actually really well done. Great anthology. Okay, so I could have told the authors ahead of time what order we were going to go in.
Yeah.
That would have been taken away from the excitement for them, anticipation. So the first one I'm going to pick up is Robyn Nyx. You get to be first. Robyn Nyx lives in England, but enjoys traveling all over the world in search of inspiration. Robyn is an avid shutterbug and lover of all things fast and physical. Her writing often reflects both of those passions. She lives with her wifey soulmate and fellow scribe Bray Willows. They run the community interest company Global Wordsmiths, helping aspiring authors to achieve their dreams and working with marginalized groups to get their stories heard. Robyn loves to create complex characters to weave into stories that remind us of the darker side of human nature in the hopes that we might cultivate the light. You can connect with her at robynnyx.com. And now we are ready to hear your piece.
Excellent. Okay, so my story is called Stripped Bare, and we're joining it a little bit into the story where our main character, Cree, is considering a bet that her best friend has given her. Grant has been gone for hours, but her challenge taunts me. She's right about the connection between Valentina and me, of course, which was why I'd snapped and given her hell. The moment she'd mentioned Valentina, flashes of her leather-clad flesh assailed my mind. I imagined looking up at her from the floor, her high-heel boot pressed against my chest. I could practically feel my muscles stretching against leather restraints, pulling my arms up and high, allowing her complete access to my naked back. What might it be like to hear her Californian lilt whisper, "Take it from me, boy." I'd spent my adult life fulfilling fantasies. Why would I deny the darkest of my own desires? Valentina's reputation as a mistress was second to none. Was it time to revisit the persona that had first led me to this world? My first and only top wasn't worthy of the title and had set me firmly on the dominant path. Was I ready to stop hiding my boy under a bushel? I side glance at my phone sitting on the oak table beside me. It won't take any effort to call. I have Valentina's number and it's even in my VIP contacts. She's made it clear on more than a few occasions that she'd like to have me under her hand. I've always wanted her under mine and she knows it. Up to now it's been stalemate. Maybe it's time to explore. But can I truly give up control after so many years as a master, even if the boy in me is desperate to? I pick up my phone and open the contacts. Valentina looks up at me, her eyes seducing me from the two-dimensional screen, challenging my ability to relinquish control, daring me to indulge my desires. I nibble on my lower lip and contemplate the best and worst case scenarios. Valentina is a pro, the best in her field, really. There is no worst case scenario. Even if I can't handle what she has to give me, she's too much of a lady to reveal my sad failure. Mind made up, I press the call button and wait for the velvet tones of her smooth voice to caress my ears. The two bodyguards at the door look at the floor as I pass. I recognise them from a play party the previous month. I'd strung them up side by side and had a lot of fun practicing my coordination with dual whips. The fair-haired one bruised like a proverbial peach, but the darker, more muscular one begged for a far firmer hand. "Sir," the darker one whispers as she opens the door. I don't respond and step inside. If I acknowledged them as the boys they'd been for me, how could I hold on to the slight shard of submissiveness I'd cultivated since last night's conversation with Valentina? It had to be tonight. I didn't want to lose my nerve, and Valentina had cleared her schedule, such was her eagerness to finally claim my pain. The door closes behind me, immediately taking away any opportunity for a last-minute change of heart. "You're precisely on time." Ah, her voice, smooth and even, but violent undertones beat beneath it, promising hell if I disappoint her. I take a deep breath through my nose. All I can smell is leather. All I feel is wet and swollen. Barely inside her honey trap, and my resolve to please her already reverberates through my core, surprising me with its intensity. Any thoughts that this might not be a good idea begin to fade. Why wouldn't I be? I ask, and take the moment of pre-play to focus on her feminine flawlessness. Calf-high lace-up heeled boots, hug sprayed-on leather pants. A matching black leather corset pushes up her breast, rising and falling just a little faster than her usual controlled breathing. I've watched her in action enough times that I could identify her exact rhythm from a lineup, blindfolded, and the excitement throbs in my jeans. "Indeed," she says, "you wouldn't want to start this by disappointing me, would you?" I swallow hard at the threat as she devours the ground between us elegantly, her heels click-clacking on the shellacked stone floor in consummate cadence with my pulsating pussy. Her thick leather signature cap swings at her hip. Her mouth is at my throat and her breath feels like it could burn the skin straight off me. Of course not. My answer is slightly flippant, the delivery too forceful, but it's too late to rein it in. She wraps her hand around my throat and her nails dig in before she drags them down over my collarbone and into the deep V of my chest. "Take off your jacket."
Excellent, excellent. That was a great story too. So, and I have a questions later about, inspiration and things like that, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. All right, next in the hot seat is M. Ulrich. M. Ulrich has published 10 novels with Bold Strokes Books, and her latest, Holiday Wishes and Mistletoe Kisses, which doesn't sound quite as erotic, but maybe,
Yeah.
will be out this November. She currently resides by the New Jersey shore, but dreams of living somewhere more peaceful, less touristy, and with at least half the road rage. You can reach M. Ulrich through social media, including Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Well, let's hear it.
Hello. All right, so my story in the anthology is called Engagements. It is about a couple, Miranda and Allie, and Miranda is meeting Allie's family for the very first time at a family dinner to celebrate her brother's new engagement. And they're both quite a bit nervous. And Miranda has her own way of soothing those nerves for both of them. And the rest is pretty self-explanatory. Family parties always made me nervous, especially when I was about to meet my girlfriend's family for the first time. Allie told me again and again that I had nothing to worry about. We were just going to have dinner to celebrate her brother's recent engagement. Her tone matched her easy expression, but we had been together long enough for me to know when she was nervous. She picked idly at the callus on her palm, a dead giveaway. I stopped fixing my long hair and looked at her in the mirror. She looked incredible despite her worry. What's bothering you? Allie met my eyes in the reflection. She smirked and dropped her hands to her side. How is it that we've been together only a couple of months and you already know me so well? I turned around and leaned against the marble vanity. You always tell me my brain was what you found attractive in the first place. Allie stepped up to me and scanned my body. I pushed my chest out slightly. My black dress was modest, but my cleavage still enticed. I guess now would be a good time to confess, she said, reaching out to touch her fingertips to my throat. I didn't really notice how smart you were until about our third date. I dropped my head back a bit, greedy for Allie's delicate touch. For all the ways she could be delightfully rough with me, she was the softest woman I had ever been with. The perfect butch package I never thought to search for. You've been lying to me this whole time? My skin prickled in the wake of her touch ascending my bare chest. Are you ashamed of what you noticed first? Your eyes, she said immediately. The quickness of her response made my heart speed up. Then it was these. She palmed my breasts. My nipples tightened at the sudden stimulation. I wanted to kiss her. I wanted to take her confidence and turn it on its head in a way that would leave her on her knees begging. But we didn't have time for that. You're trying to distract me. Allie smiled. Is it working? I leaned in, bringing my lips within millimeters of hers. I could taste the mint on her breath. No. Allie stepped away and rolled her shoulders. I felt cold and regretted letting her go. But watching her black Oxford shirt stretch across her broad back was enough of a reward for the moment. I'm just a little nervous, that's all. It's more than a case of nerves. How can you tell? We live less than 2 hours from your parents' house, and you insisted we get a hotel room. It'll probably be a long night, and I don't want either of us to drive if we're tired or drunk. And staying with your family wasn't an option. I knew my question struck a nerve when Allie didn't answer. She only shook her head. I watched again as she started to scratch at her palm. Your callus gives you away every time. Her hands stilled. My family is dysfunctional, like most, but my mom isn't very accepting. Panic started to creep in. Will she have a problem with me being there? I don't want to cause any problems. Oh no, Allie said, taking my hands. The warmth of her fingers laced with mine calmed me. She'll love you, I have no doubt about it. She just doesn't like how I look. I'm not a woman. I would have found Allie's use of air quotes while holding my hands funny if she didn't look so worried. But you're all woman, baby. I pulled my hands free to wrap my arms around her waist. I grabbed her full, muscular ass and dug my nails in, and I happen to really love the way you look. Allie kissed me softly. Her expression grew a fraction lighter. My mom sees the world differently and has no problem vocalizing her opinions. I knew this was the perfect time to share my latest bright idea with Allie. Lucky for you, you're dating a woman who thinks ahead to solve problems before they arise. I walked out of the bathroom with Allie in tow. I searched my overnight bag and smiled triumphantly when I found the little plastic rectangle in the side pocket. I held it up and laughed at Allie's confusion. This is for when you, or we, need a distraction. I tapped the remote to her strong chin, ran it down to the center of her chest, and then grabbed her hand to place it in her palm. Just the way the small remote was dwarfed in her big hands turned me on. Press the button once for low, twice for medium, and 3 times for high. Allie looked between me and the remote. What's this to? My panties. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Excellent. 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 Yes. Nothing like technology. So that was a very nice use
Yeah,
of that
right?
in there. The perfect Bluetooth device. Okay.
Right?
So I won't give any more away, but I do like the twist later, and we'll talk about that. So that's really well done. So,
Thank
all
you.
right.
Thank you.
Next up, Carol. I know you're nervous, so we'll just let you go next. That sound fair? Okay. Carol, or C.A. Hutchinson, lives in the UK, writing as often as she can. She discovered her love for writing after discovering fan fiction. She now avidly reviews books in the woman loving a woman category and aspires to be as successful as those who inspire her dreams. Okay.
Okay, so my story is called Nicolette. It's office-based romance sort of typey thing with a bit of an erotic edge. So we're not starting at the beginning of the story, we start a little bit into it. The room was silent. Nicolette just stared at me, her expression unreadable. Then suddenly, as if the moment of me making a complete fool of myself hadn't happened, she carried on with her presentation. To my left, a bloke whose name escaped me made notes. To my right, Sophia scribbled notes with an unnatural amount of enthusiasm. But she adored Nicolette. You could tell from the idolized stare she always had when looking at our boss. Not like me. My staring was a lot more intense and a whole lot less innocent. I'd had a dream about her once. Then it had happened again and again. And now it didn't just occur at night. Nicolette was on my mind every hour of every day. I rested my elbow on the desk, my chin on my hand, listening to the sound of Nicolette's sexy voice, but not comprehending a word she said, until I heard my name again. Rosie, a word. She caught me off guard. I realised my colleagues were vacating the meeting room, so somewhere along the line, I drifted back into my fantasies and missed the end of the meeting. I stood up, acknowledging her, and wondered if my face betrayed how anxious I was feeling. Nicolette went first, strutting from the meeting room with a confidence I could only wish to possess. Her hips swayed as she crossed through the maze of desks towards her office, with me hot on her heels, just trying not to trip over my own feet. Sit. God, that voice did funny things to me. Nicolette's authoritative tone had me jumping to attention. I sank into one of the large leather chairs she pointed to and focused my gaze on my feet. I'd never been pulled into her office before, but it was as I had imagined it would be. My palms were sweating, and the heat I could feel in my cheeks was burning. So much for the brazen cockiness my fantasy self had when talking to her. Every time I got her alone, it abandoned me. She crossed the room, disappearing somewhere behind me, and I heard the click of a lock. So we weren't going to be disturbed. How much trouble was I really in? Okay, I hadn't been paying attention in the meeting, but only because I didn't understand all that corporate stuff. And did it really matter? Everyone knew why I had this job, and it wasn't because I was smart. Do you know why you are here, Rosie? Nicolette asked as she returned to me and took a seat in the opposite chair. I shrugged. I know what you were thinking, she continued. Now that got my attention. There was no way in hell she knew what I'd been thinking during that meeting. I felt myself flush at the memory. I glanced down, catching a glimpse of the tops of her creamy breasts on show. Stop biting your lip. My head snapped up and I met her sparkling, unbelievably green eyes, but it didn't stop me biting my lip. Nicolette stood up slowly and my eyes travelled the length of her body. She perched on the arm of my chair as the side split in her skirt answered my earlier question. Stockings. I felt a light tickle on my skin. My hair was gently being pushed behind my ear. A light scratch followed. Those blood-red nails were trailing my jaw, resting under my chin, tilting my head up to look at her. Only I didn't meet her eyes. Her blouse gaped, showing two swells of full breasts, not so safely nestled in black lace. The appreciative moan escaped my lips before I had a chance to stop it. Rosie, she said softly. I glanced up to find a smile gracing those perfect plump lips of hers. My red face had to match their pigmented colour. I wanted so badly to feel her smooth skin against mine. My heart pounded as I just stared, captivated by that dangerous twinkle in her eye. She might know what I was thinking, but I sure wish I knew what was on her mind.
Great, great. I love that one too, especially the twist on that one. But we'll, like I said, we'll get to those questions later. But kind of a Twilight-y zone. That was awesome. That was really well done. So I liked it. Okay, Kitty. Of course, I'm leaving you last, LL. You knew I would. But Kitty McIntosh is a writer living on the west coast of Scotland with her family. She writes romance, mystery, fantasy, erotica, and sci-fi, and enjoys penning short stories, novellas, and full-length novels. Much of her inspiration comes from the scenery and people she encounters on her walks around Scotland. Her work has been published by Bold Strokes Books, Sapphire Books, Jug Run Press, the Lesfic Eclectic Volume 1 and 2, Lesbian Fiction Campfire Stories, and in the Goldie Award-winning Our Happy Hours, LGBT Voices from the Gay Bars. Okay, we are ready.
My story is called Taking a Leap, and it's about a woman who has a vivid fantasy life, but so far it's only been in her head. Okay. I had an itch that needed to be scratched, and I knew exactly what it would take. I'd been preparing, getting my special collection together. It was hidden at the very back of my walk-in closet on a top shelf in a hat box, underneath piles of violet tissue paper. My flatmate Josie was too nosy for me to take any chance of it being found. I suspected she'd be shocked and horrified at the thought of her seemingly straight-laced friend being involved in such fantasies. But I had to do something about it, and soon. I heard the front door click shut. At last, I had the place to myself.
Listen to her voice.
I got up on my tiptoes and reached my way back until I could grab the box. It was getting heavier.
An author.
Each month on payday, I had bought another item to add to my collection. The latest had arrived in the mail in a plain brown package. I could feel my excitement build. But before I opened it up, I would go through the contents of the box. I had already committed each item to memory, and I had imagined the ways they would be used. Maybe it was a bit OCD, my little routine, but it got me hot and bothered, and I was always ready for some alone time by the time I got to the bottom of the box. It was my guilty little secret, and I must admit to getting quite a thrill from the fact. Maybe that's why I kept it up. I lifted the things out one by one, stroking my fingers lightly over the purple silk scarves, thinking of the day I'd finally get to use them. Next came the black leather corset studded with shiny metal. I hadn't dared try it on. I wanted to keep it special. The heaviest items in the box were the various tubes of flavoured and coloured lubes. I had read that one could never have enough. Well, I certainly didn't know from experience. All my fantasies were based on erotica and my vivid imagination. This month's addition to the collection was the one I had been most looking forward to. I had chosen carefully, and after much consideration, from the catalogue. Although I had never used one, I knew that I wanted a strap-on, a leather one, and I had booked a special weekend away where I planned to use it. As I drove through the Scottish Highlands towards the address of the country house on my invitation, the sheer beauty of the area astounded me. On either side of the narrow, winding road, craggy cliffs showed layers of rock built up over millions of years. Waterfalls poured down mountainsides topped with hard-packed snow, and sheep grazed in the uneven green fields that stretched for miles. Although it was cold outside, I wound my window down, desperate to breathe in the cool, clean air. The sharp cry of an eagle sounded above the whir of my engine as I watched it swoop down to pick up an unfortunate rabbit for its meal. A large metal sign in the distance alerted me to slow down as I reached Barrington Manor. Turning onto the long, bumpy driveway, I could see the house looming above, clearly visible on top of a hill. It was in the style of a Georgian mansion with a large courtyard in the front. The area was being used to park several expensive-looking cars, and my Mini looked decidedly out of place. It was at this point that the butterflies firmly took root in my stomach. I tried to look super confident as I walked from my teeny tiny car up the huge stone steps leading into the hallway of the house. I certainly didn't feel it. I don't know what I expected, but the calm, matter-of-fact reception I received took me aback. Were they so used to organising sexual fantasy fulfilment parties that no one batted an eye?
Great, great. Yes, they'll be asking you about a little research on that one too. And also where she suddenly got her courage, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Okay, LL, after having read yours, I'm very curious to hear what 3 minutes you'll read. So let me read your blurb. LL Shleton lives in Virginia on the East Coast of the United States. She is a graduate of the GCLS Writing Academy class of 2021. LL enjoys writing multiple genres that includes erotica, contemporary romance, paranormal romance, and horror. She has 5 published novels and is the co-editor of the Lady Grimm Anthology series. LL Shleton is currently working on the next Lady Grimm, due to release in September, and a romance novel titled Danny's Heart. Okay, you're up.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here. The name of my story was All Aboard. Obviously, the setting is on a train, and this is when one of the main characters is first getting on the train. since I had to behave myself, so I have to start at the beginning. Okay. All aboard. The words bounced from the speakers above Silk's head. She stopped to listen to any further messages, but when the speaker drew quiet, she continued her journey through the train cars. Dressed in a white silk blouse, she teetered between the crowd in a tightly enclosed space. Bodies pressed against each other with hands straying to forbidden parts as she tried to find balance. A quick apologetic smile followed each arousing touch. The white silk clung to her body from the heat with a sensation developing within. Her nipples were ripe from all the contact and ready for plucking. As she reached the last door, a man and a woman stood facing each other in a small corridor. They leaned against the opposite walls, restricting the space between them. The woman raised her body as Silk stepped closer. She wore a tight-fitting green lace blouse. Her long auburn hair flowed down with little twist at the end of each strand lifting from her bare shoulders. The corners of her mouth turned up slightly, revealing a shy smile. Submissively, her eyes fell as she clearly admired Silk's curves. Silk took a step towards the man, causing him to smile. She smiled back, but with a small shift of her heel, she was pressed against the lady in green. Their silken lace tops were drawn together by a static electricity. A different electricity ricocheted through her veins, the type that fires desires. Silk shuffled sideways, followed by a pause. She grabbed the woman at the waist before she pushed her hips into her. She was rewarded with barely a suppressed moan. Eyes met, and seduction was firmly placed. Another shuffle, and lips lingered inches apart. Breaths held silent. Another shuffle, and her fingers ran across the woman's stomach. Silk stepped free and pulled the door open to the next car of the train. She stepped inside, but not before turning to give the woman in lace a soft, wanting gaze. Silk found her seat quickly, a back row in the first class where she had little privacy and a bit more room to move. The train would depart shortly. She second-guessed her decision to decline a sleeping car. The 12-hour ride to New York City already seemed unbearable. The time would click by slowly unless she could find something or someone to meet her entertainment needs. Maybe an auburn-haired woman in lace blouse would fulfill that desire. She turned back in search for lace. She was gone. A large round man stood against the same wall reading a newspaper where she once stood. So much for the hope of the auburn hair cascading over her skin with the lace fabric gently caressing her inner thighs, while Silk held the woman's head tightly between her legs. Silk was becoming intoxicated with the thoughts of pumping until she released into the woman's mouth. A tinge of wetness emerged, and Silk forced herself to draw her attention somewhere else. Her fingers softly stroked the white silk material wrapped around her neck. With a twist, the back of her hand slipped between her breasts. She watched out the window as bodies rushed to load the train at the last minute. She sat in row 69, admiring her reflection. Her makeup was flawless, with a light of coat red lipstick over full lips. Her long blonde hair was half pinned up, a slight dip and a deep cleavage reflected in the glass. Yes, she was on form today.
Excellent. Excellent. Good choice. Good choice. Very safe. All right. We're buddies off camera,
Yeah.
just in case you wonder why I'm teasing her so badly today. Okay. Yes. So let's ask a few questions. We'll do a little round of questions here. Victoria, I'm going to start with you. I know you touched a little bit on why this anthology came together for you, but there's a lot of different genres to choose from in the world, and I'm wondering why erotica?
There are a couple different reasons. It's kind of close to my heart. It's where I began my own publishing journey. Lori Lake convinced me to write my very first one in an anthology many years ago now, and it kind of gave me a great jumping point for writing. And it was a great way to have a lot of fun in a short story and keep it really focused. and get my feet wet, so to speak. So I just it's and it's just part of my writing journey. So I think it's a great way for new authors to jump in and begin their own journeys. So that's part of it. And I also, I mean, when I was going to women's bookstores, 20 years ago, or maybe a little more, erotica was primarily what you found on the shelves. And it was kind of a, wow, look at these books about women being with women. And it was so exciting. And I think that those are still necessary. Those are still great for 20-year-olds walking around trying to find books that, they can just enjoy here and there when they have time to read, kind of thing. And which might work as instruction manuals of a sort. So, and like I say, the diversity that comes in with anthologies is always amazing. And I'm always so struck by the different voices and styles and even genres within the erotica realm that you can get.
Great. Yeah, the diversity, especially in this one, was excellent. So yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's exciting. We're so glad that you got started, however it began, and got your feet wet. We just left that alone. We're just Sorry. Okay, so before I keep going with questions, everyone who is in the meeting with us, if you want to put something in the chat, you need to remember to put the 2 to everyone. So if you're sending stuff to people individually, I won't be able to see that. So if you can flip to everyone and then type in there whatever you want. And if there's anyone in the crowd who wants to unmute and ask a question before I go on to my next one, this is a great opportunity. No pressure.
Ask questions. We
Yes.
like questions.
Oh, so shy, so shy. Yeah. What a group. You would think with this topic, we wouldn't be shy. Okay, so we're just going to go around the wheel here, and I'm going to ask everybody the same question. And basically, we'll start with Carol, because she happens to be on my right. And the question is, why did you choose to be a part of an erotica anthology?
To be published, because I've never written anything before that's been published, and this is the only thing that I've ever had published. And Bold Strokes is such a recognized name in publishing that it was important to try and see if I was good enough. And I was lucky, is how I'll put that.
I would say more than lucky. That's a great story. So congratulations on your first published work, I'll put it that way. So that's great. All right. Robyn, I'm going to go with you next. Why? I know you write erotica, but why did you pick this one?
Why did I
didn't give her a choice.
I was going to say you probably were a little motivated by the editor. But.
Yeah. As soon as Victoria was asked to do the anthology that Sandy from Bold Strokes had come up with, she kind of turned to me and was like, "Write me a story." I was, what about? So she said, "I don't know, write me a story about a sort of lifelong top who fancies being a bottom." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I didn't write anything for a couple of months, and she's like, "Write this story." So put pen to paper, and there it was. But in a similar way to what Victoria said, when I was going to bookshops as a young lesbian, there was Laura Antonio on the bookshelves, Pat Califia, all of the really dirty stuff, and I was like, wow, I'm loving this. So it kind of came naturally to me to write sex. I love sex. I love writing about it. I love reading it. I love watching it. I love doing it. So it just seemed kind of natural.
That was a lot of information.
Well, I have to agree. So no judgment here. All right, Ulrich, let's tell us, why did you do this anthology?
I pretty much jump at any anthology opportunity whenever the emails go out and they're calling for submissions. I almost, unless my schedule just will not give me a break to sit down and do it, because I think the shorter stories are such a great little exercise. But also I love the opportunity to write erotica, and I get to just sit down and just hash out a whole little story in and of itself and centered around sex. So I like being just with a bunch of authors that I admire and get a chance to be collected with them. I think it's a great little opportunity and it's fun to do. It's like little pressure to it, and you just get to do whatever your fantasy is, whatever your little idea is. You could put it into that short story and have a lot of fun with it.
Great. LL, why'd you do it?
Yep. I'm gonna have to go off Robyn. I love sex. No, I've tampered with erotica before, but when the submission call came, I was still new on the circuit, and I'd already been published. I had one book which had quite a bit of sex in it, and barely a second one published. So it was a challenge, and I said, why not? So I gave it a shot.
Great. Kitty.
Well, I prefer writing short stories anyway. So when I got the chance to submit to this, I really was keen. And as a reviewer as well, I've read so many Bold Strokes books that the chance to actually have something published by Bold Strokes was just amazing. It was on my bucket list, and it was the most exciting thing when I got the email saying it had been accepted, because I thought there's no way I could get into something that Bold Strokes was publishing, but I did, and it was very exciting.
Yeah, I understand that. I really do. A bucket list for Bold Strokes, definitely. Okay, we do have a question. This is about setting, which is like these are some interesting settings. I don't think anyone was in a traditional bedroom setting from the books I read. I mean, Kitty, I'm going to start with you. Yours does a little bit bedroom wise, but how'd you pick having them go to this special sex mansion fantasy? Where did that come from?
Well, the mansion is based on a mansion that's about 10 miles away from where I live. And it's been all sorts of things. It's been a home, it's been a hotel, it's been a conference centre, it's been a restaurant. But it always sort of appealed to me. It looks so good from the outside. And I could just imagine sort of interesting things going on in that place. And I thought, well, that's where I want to set it. So although I don't live in the Highlands, but I've based it in the Highlands and sort of transported the mansion to there for the story.
Gotcha. It was really cool setting. And then LL, you're on a train. Where did that come from?
I knew I didn't want the traditional setting of a bedroom. I didn't want romance in my story. I didn't want feelings. I just wanted pure sex, pure rawness. And I wanted to take it out of the bedroom, which I know that can happen in a bedroom too, obviously, but I wanted to pull it out of the bedroom, and I wanted a time frame. I wanted a time frame that this rawness would happen, and putting it on something that was traveling seemed the easiest thing. And a train was they were a little bit more able to move around than an airplane or anything else I would have put them on. But so that's how I picked the train.
Okay, so Ulrich, yours was a converted bedroom, so you kind of fall into that, and you're on the dresser. So, yeah. So, is this from experience? I mean, where did this childhood home story come from?
Not necessarily from experience, but I mean, there's that fun borderline like voyeurism aspect of like, you're wearing these vibrating panties, you're handing over all of that control to your partner, and you are surrounded by people just, enjoying dinner. And then the other like added layer of the relationships between some of the people involved. And then take it to the bedroom. But again, you want more spice than that. You don't want to go just vanilla. So even as I wrote it, I was like, we're going to ignore the bed as much as possible, because let's just keep it going as fun as possible. And I mean, I can't say that I would hate the idea of a dresser being a certain level for certain reasons, and very sturdy.
Yeah, I
Might
didn't
be
think it's
going
sturdy.
furniture shopping tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe.
I was a little worried there for a minute about the sturdiness of that
I know,
person's
I know.
furniture.
And I'm a very practical writer, so I think of all these things as I'm writing. So I'm like, it needs to be sturdy.
Yeah, that was great. No, that was a great sex
Thank you.
definitely. All right, Robyn, you're in a dungeon.
Yeah, it's similar to kind of Kitty's, really. It's a sex house, effectively, where lots of rudeness goes on. The original kind of story was actually in a prison, but I took them out of that when Grant came into it, the best friend, who just as I started with this thing about I'd rewinding back many moons ago when I did my thesis for my degree. It was actually on consensual violence with lesbians, or between lesbians. And I went to Pride in London and interviewed loads of people that looked like they might be into that kind of thing. And I remember one of them saying that they'd broken a belt over somebody. And that's how the story starts with, Jesus, you broke your belt. And it's like, no, not my belt, because my belt's proper leather. This was her belt and it was cheap leather kind of thing. So it started with that. And then when the bet came into it, I was like, okay, where can this go? And it just seemed natural to place it in a sex club, effectively, with the mistress of the house, and having always had that frisson between them, but neither of them being willing to step down. And obviously at the end, after Cree has bottomed for Valentina, it ends with the promise of the return party, effectively.
Yeah.
And I have to say, the amount of stories I've seen with like sex houses and sex clubs and that are all women, it's amazing they don't exist. Like, obviously there is a call for them. So, if anybody wants a business opportunity, I think
Actually, Portland might support it. You never know. So
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, Carol, you did the boardroom / go to the office, close the door, don't get interrupted scene. So let's see what happens there.
How was it work?
You're at
When I
work.
wrote it. And the characters inspire the setting. There was the perfect place to have them. There's something dangerous about the office. There's something kind of forbidden about that type of relationship. So it wrote itself. The setting just came naturally.
Oh, then I'm going to bounce right back to you. And there's a question in there. I'm going to have to ask it. How much is based on experience? Oh, you said it was the setting that you knew. So
None of it is. It's based on some feelings, and that's about it. None of it's based on actual experience.
Okay, that's fair. All right. Let's see. I'm going to jump around. Ulrich, what part is based on experience? You touched on it a little bit, but did you ever use a dresser? You still want to?
That is on my bucket list. So right now, I would say our dresser isn't the most sturdy, but as soon as I get that sturdy dresser, all bets are off. But yeah,
Make it so it doesn't tip.
And I would say maybe a little bit is based off of experience when it comes to fun remote controlled gadgets.
Oh, there you go.
Whatnot.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was my next question. How much is that based on experience?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. A great toy, great motivator.
Can confirm.
LL, take a train ride recently?
I plead the fifth.
Okay, that's fair. Oh my gosh. Kitty, how much?
Oh, no,
Nothing
completely.
in the closet? No toys in the closet?
No, I'm afraid I have a vivid imagination, but it's not based in reality, no.
Okay. This is the awkward part. All right, Robyn, you said you talked to some people did some interviews to find out, but how close is it?
I'm going to pretend to be American and plead the fifth. If this panel was without Victoria, I might have a different answer for you. But I have been told very firmly No, I'm teasing. No, I'm not teasing. So I am pleading the fifth.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Anybody want to unmute and ask a question, or do you want me to keep going with my clever list I have created for you?
Go with
Okay.
your clever list. I mean, I loved the book. I love the authors. I love all the readings, but I don't think my questions are good for, you know, I'm very curious. So no.
It is recorded, so yeah. All right. So I guess my next question is then.
Or you can always reach out afterwards and you know,
Yeah,
message people individually.
Perfect. I'll do that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. Have a private conversation offline. It's all good. Yes. Oh my goodness. That's a nice offer. All right. So I want to know. So Carol, you said this is the first that you've written to be published, but how much experience do you have with writing erotica, and would you write erotica again?
The first time that I'd actually written anything that was going to be published. So, and for erotica, I'd never really dabbled in it before. I've read a lot of it. Like Kitty, I review. So I've read a broad spectrum of bits and pieces to do with erotica, but I would do it again. It's an easy enough thing to do because it's a focused subject.
Gotcha. Robyn, I mean, I already know kind of your answer, I think. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you've written erotica, and I can only imagine you'll write it again. But so another question came up. Do you think it's easier to write erotica in a short story? Dr. Robyn, yes.
Apologies, I was busy trying to read, and the comment in the side. Can you repeat the question? I'm terribly.
No, that's all right. That's all right. So is it easier to write erotica as a short story?
Oh, she's nodding, and I don't know, because I'd like to do a co-write. Basically, no, that's not happening. Based on that kind of short story and that house with lots of dirtiness going on. So I'd like the challenge of being able to write a full novel. I've not yet tried to write a full novel of erotica, so I don't know if it's easier or harder to write a short story. I think the challenge with short stories is keeping to the word limit, because a short, particularly with BDSM, because there's so much emotion that you need to get into that, because it's not just about the slap and tickle and the tying up business, that a 15-20 minute scene can take pages and pages and pages to write. So it's hard I think to stay within that short story word limit.
Gotcha.
Can I answer that too?
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks. Shush. So I think it's hard to keep conflict and tension going in an erotic novel. I think it takes a really deft hand to keep it novel length for an erotica novel. Whereas I think in an erotic short story, it's kind of a moment. It's a moment in time, which makes focus a lot easier.
Gotcha. Yes. Well, good. I have one for you, so we'll just bounce back to you because we're running out of time. So how much of the process of selection were you involved in the stories? And
for this one, quite a bit.
What were you looking for?
I was looking for something different. I was looking for a wide range of things. So from kind of sweet and sassy, like M's, to kind of dirty and edgy like LL's. I wanted a real array of stories. I got a lot of BDSM stories, but I wanted things that really captured the imagination, things that were both sexy as well as kind of had some humor in or some deeper emotion, things that really touched on the emotional side of things as well as the deeply sensual and physical side of things. So I read quite a few submissions. We got a lot for this, and yeah, I think ultimately that's what it came down to, was that fantastic interweaving of both the emotion and the physical.
Right. Yeah, definitely hit that nail on the head. These are great. All right, I'm going to check the chat. I see some stuff going on here. Let's see here. Something about 50 Shades of Grey. I was just asking because that POS 50 Shades of Grey was heavily derided by my friends who are in the BDSM community. Okay. So that's, I'm not seeing that as a real question, Tracy, as an observation. If I'm wrong, just unmute or put something in there and say, nope, you got it wrong.
I think it was a follow-up to the Tracy's original question about how much of it was based on experience.
Gotcha. That was also Tracy. Okay. Thank you for helping the moderator figure out what she's doing. All right. We got just a few minutes. Anyone else in the audience have a question before I go on to another one? No? Okay. So a few of you kind of had a twist in your story. Well, okay, so they're all very unique. And so like LL, yours did not have any dialogue. So where did that come from? Very original, very, very well done. Just curious why you did that.
Well, when I decided I was going to submit, I decided I was going to challenge myself. And I thought over things, and I was thinking, well, you know, when they say when you lose one sense, another one enhances. So I thought if I took the words away from the readers and having them not be able to develop the characters that way, that, like I said before, that rawness of lust would enhance. So basically it was, you know, first it started as a challenge, and then a couple times I almost slipped and put words in there, and then I had to go back and fix myself. But it started off as a challenge, and then it started off as, okay, I'm gonna develop these characters without dialogue and see if I can reach the readers. And I've gotten good feedback, so I guess I did a good job at it. So, but it was fun, and I wouldn't mind trying it again, you know, eventually.
Right on. Yeah, it was really, really cool. That was really cool. All right, checking again, chat, looking good. So Carol, back to you. Okay, I'm gonna do a couple spoilers maybe. So if you haven't read the stories yet, this might be the time to exit stage right, because I'm gonna ask Carol about her Twilight Zone kind of feel to her awesome story. And so basically, how did you come up with the fact the whole thing is in her head? And then we find out at the very end that it hasn't actually happened, but may happen. So where did that come from?
A bunch of feelings that I had. Like when you're sitting around and you're bored at work, I can say that now because I no longer work for that employer. And there's some inspiration in the room. You just kind of like your mind wander, don't you?
Nice.
And that's what I did. And that was all I had in my head. So that's what came out.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, it was cool. That was cool. And I wasn't expecting it. So that was awesome. That's the best part. And then Ulrich, you, again, a spoiler a little bit here, but your twist is to have the fiance be an ex of the main character and is really into it. So.
Yeah. And it's like a family secret. We don't even know if the brother really knows. We don't really know anything except for that they're exes. And the new girlfriend finds out that night. So it really just adds like another layer of like, well, I'm going to show you just how much we enjoy each other and what you're losing out on. So that's fun. And then, the ex happens to stumble upon the dresser activity. And she's not mad about it, but I do think that she really got an idea that she was missing out on a thing or two.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
She displayed that. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So no, it was good. That was good having that.
Thank you. I wanted to add like another little like more
cool.
fun. We'll call it more fun.
Yeah. All right, we have 2 minutes, so we got to do the quick roundup of what are you working on next and how can we find out more about you. So we're going to go, Kitty, I'm going to start over here.
I'm working on a sort of cozy murder mystery. So It's set in a care home, but the main characters is the care home manager and a police officer, because some murders happen in the care home. So that's what I'm kind of working on at the minute.
All right, sounds good. Definitely a little different than what you wrote for the anthology, it sounds like, but yeah, very diverse. I've read some of your stuff. LL, you said in your blog you're working on a novel called Danny's Heart, and you're also working on your own anthology, the horror anthology, Lady Grimm 2. So where can we find out more about these upcoming books?
Lady Grimm will be released on the 18th, so not too far. And Kitty actually has a amazing story in it, so you can see reading another one of her amazing stories. I'm big on Facebook, so there'll be a lot of posts. That's usually where you can find me, is on Facebook. I suck at Twitter. I don't get it. Instagram, I barely do. You put up a picture, that's all I know. But I'm always around on Facebook. That's where you can find me. Danny's Heart's a little ways out, but Lady Grimm will be coming up in September 18th.
And Ulrich, what's coming up?
Well, we have Holiday Wishes and Mistletoe Kisses. That's coming out in November, and I'm really excited because I've been out of the game for a little bit. So I'm very excited to have a new book out there and be able to be in readers' hands again. That's a holiday book, so anybody who's a fan of holiday romances, it's 4 romances sort of wrapped together in one.
Cool.
And I just actually signed my contract for my 11th book. It's called Laws of Magic, and I'm finally tiptoeing into a little bit of like a paranormal type of world. And it's going to be about a witch and a security guard who seemingly doesn't know any better and just patrols outside of her little apothecary. So that's going to be a lot of fun to write because I haven't written anything like that before.
Yeah.
So it'll be like a nice little challenge and just a whole lot of fun to finally toy around with like witches and fun stuff like that.
Cool.
But yeah, and I could be found. Yeah, thank you very much. I could be found Facebook and Instagram, very big on those too. So you can always find me on there.
Very good. Okay, Victoria, what's up for you?
Well, under Bray Willows, I've got my first of a 9-book series coming out, Song of Serenity. And that's really exciting. So that's the first one, and it takes place in the world of the Afterlife trilogy. So I'm really excited about that. And then the second one comes out in April. So that's also very exciting. And with regard to anthologies, BSB has just put out another call. So if people are interested, this one is on kind of playing with the gender stuff, and so any trans people or non-binary identifying characters, people are welcome to submit. So the call for submissions is on Facebook and on BSB's webpage. So if you want to have a look over there and see if you want to submit a story for that. Yeah.
Robyn? Yes, that's great. A 9-book series. Well, I'll have to ask about that later, how you come up with those. But all right, Robyn.
I'm working on a crime thriller novel called Dead Pretty, and that's about a cop and a mortuary person who makes the bodies look pretty once they're dispatched into the afterlife. And that's, I don't know when I'm going to get that done and out. It's on the long list of to-do things. I'm also in the throes of collecting submissions for the 3rd volume of Lesbian Eclectic, which Kitty has been in for volumes 1 and 2, and also I spot Evie Bancroft in the audience. She's also been in 1 and 2, and both Kitty and Evie have submitted to volume 3. So if anybody in the audience is fancying that, because the point of Lesbian Eclectic is to discover new voices. So there are a collection of established authors in, and Casey, you're going to be in it this year.
Yep.
There's a number of established authors in there, And then it's to showcase new voices and people who maybe haven't published before. And it's a free anthology, so I do all the stuff for it, and then everybody gets a nice free copy that they can access via Book Funnel. So if anybody's interested in that, please write to me at lesfic.eclectic@butterworths.co.uk, which is also my newest project, which is a new kind of publishing house and a home for independent authors with a view to supporting authors that actually aren't able to pay for the editing and the professional processes that go along with traditional publishing to raise that bar for indie authors.
Nice. That's awesome. I didn't know you're doing that. That's great. We'll have to talk about that. That's really great. All right, Carol, what you got? What's next for you? What do you want to do now?
Well, I'm always so busy reviewing that finding time to write is really difficult. I have a draft novel that I've done nothing with. I have the start of the second draft novel that I've done nothing with. I want to sit down and spend some time writing some more short stories. I'm just hoping to find more time to do it.
Yeah, well, I understand that. Yes, time, but we appreciate your reviews too. So thank you for doing those. Very, very, very much appreciated. Okay, it is 12:05, so we're going to get in trouble for going long. But thank you everyone who has participated and who has attended. It's been a great time. I look forward to reading more of your work. And that's, wait, I gotta do one more thing. I'm getting in trouble. The next book club is Alone by E.J. Noyes. If you want to join us, it'll be Saturday, October 2nd. We kind of picked a thriller because it's that time of year, October. So please join us for that. And that's it. That's a wrap. So thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.